The explosion of the video game industry over the past 30 years has been a wild ride. From nerds creating games in their basements to billion-dollar corporations, the landscape of the entire industry has changed drastically. This is the story of Hi-Rez Studios. Not the biggest developer, but absolutely one of the most infamous independent studios out there. Hi-Rez didn't create the biggest games, and they often made some of the worst decisions imaginable with them. In spite of this, 20 years of community, competition, and controversy gave us a story worth remembering. In 2005, Hirez founded Hi-Rez Studios in a suburb of Atlanta with the fortune that he had made with several software companies. The studio would debut in 2010 with Global Agenda. For a small team of less than 50 employees, this was an ambitious MMO shooter hybrid that had potential, but they would struggle to turn a profit. 2 years later, they would release their follow-up project, Tribes Ascend. This fast-paced, high-speed FPS played amazingly and became a cult classic within the genre, but it was remembered as what could have been, not what was. Hi-Rez once again stopped updating because it wasn't profitable enough. This time to focus on a little MOBA project which would end up being their biggest hit. Smite would release to instant success. Not the instant success that we see today where a game can go from unknown to millions of players overnight, but successful enough to support the studio with the cosmetic microtransactions. Smite was a third-person MOBA featuring a playable cast of deities and mythological characters from cultures around the world. The gameplay wasn't the prettiest, Hi-Rez was constantly making questionable decisions, but at the end of the day, it was a free-to-play MOBA that was available on consoles with some highly recognizable characters. Hi-Rez had struck gold with the decision to use iconic figures like Zeus, Thor, or Anubis instead of creating their own, and they had an exclusive section of the MOBA market to themselves. If you didn't have a PC but you wanted to play League of Legends or Dota 2, Smite was the closest thing and it was completely free to try. This formula of creating a lower quality but more accessible version of a popular genre became the Hi-Rez signature. Following the Battleground of the Gods, Hi-Rez would release their second biggest success, Paladins, Champions of the Realm. The team that had worked on Global Agenda and Tribes had created a unique fantasy shooter with some deck building mechanics that had unique charm. While Smite was made to compete with League of Legends and Dota 2, Paladins would follow the same path as Blizzard's hero shooter Overwatch. When the game first released, there were more differences than similarities. The comparisons were there, but each game had a very unique feel. As time would pass, Hi-Rez would clearly update the game in a way that emphasized those similarities. This was a divisive decision. Hardcore Paladins fans wanted the game they loved to stay the same, but optimizing for potential converts from the much larger Overwatch market was objectively a smart business decision. Both Smite and Paladins would have strong staying power and would provide Hi-Rez with consistent revenue after establishing respectable player bases in two different genres. A major aspect of both titles was the Hi-Rez esports division. With Hi-Rez's track record, it should be no surprise to anyone that they would attempt to capture the lightning-in-a-bottle success of competitive esports. When done right, having an active competitive scene in your game is one of the most effective marketing tools available. Gamers will come in flocks to any game that they believe could be their personal path to internet fame. Hi-Rez would succeed in creating a functioning esports scene in both Smite and Paladins, with the Smite Pro League running for around 10 years and the Paladins Pro League running for around 5. On the outside, things looked amazing. Hi-Rez was running huge events, partnering with some of the biggest esports organizations in the world, and drawing a ton of eyes to their games. But on the inside, troubles were brewing. Running 2 full-fledged pro leagues and paying everybody involved, players, staff, and even the participating organizations had a massive cost. While the leagues appeared successful, they were not even remotely close to the expected ROI that Hi-Rez was hoping for. While the 2 golden children were flying high, Hi-Rez would expand their development team and continue creating new titles, or at least attempting to. Alongside a few quality releases, Hi-Rez would churn out tons of uninspiring and low-quality products. There was Hand of the Gods, a card-based game in the Smite universe. Prophecy, the Smite auto-battler that was supposed to rival Dota Auto Chess. Smite Blitz, the most uninspiring mobile gacha game that I have ever seen. Smite Rivals, Clash Royale but worse, this one didn't even make it to release. We had Paladin Strike, it was a 2D Paladins version on your phone. And then Rogue Company. This one was actually a pretty solid game, but still all of these were complete flops. Some couldn't even stay alive for more than a month, and some didn't make it to release. So far, we've talked about both the successes and the failures of the Hi-Rez release cycle, but one major story point is missing: the game that reached over 100,000 concurrent players, Realm Royale. Realm Royale had the chance to be Hi-Rez's smash hit. It was a battle royale game made with Paladins assets. The combination of solid gameplay, some viral tournaments early on, and a quirky mechanic where you turned into a chicken as the last stand made players flock to this new game. Unfortunately, Hi-Rez would repeat their past mistakes. They added random loot rarity and several other major changes that turned the players back to their larger competitors. Eventually, they would release Realm Royale Reforged, returning the game to its original state, but it was years too late and the magic had passed. This was the beginning of the end for Hi-Rez. The missed opportunity with Realm Royale would spiral things on the back end. The cash cows of Smite and Paladins couldn't support the rapid-fire development approach anymore, and changes would come swiftly. Hi-Rez would split their teams into independent subsidiaries to try to remove some of the negative stigma around their name. Titanforge was over Smite, Evil Mojo was over Paladins, and Heroic Leap was over Realm Royale. There were others as well, but they would be quickly absorbed into the big three. The first sign of what was coming would be their cutbacks on esports. Almost nothing was so core to each game's community as the competitive scene. Casual players would watch online and come to big conventions like Hi-Rez Expo and DreamHack Atlanta to celebrate the games. But just like with the games themselves, the ROI was not there. Hi-Rez would cut prize pools down, consolidate events, and eventually even try to run the leagues without traditional esports organizations. Instead of Cloud9 or Na'Vi, fans were supposed to cheer for the Gilded Gladiators. Hi-Rez literally came up with a ChatGPT-generated esports league before the company even existed. All of this leads us to what has been deemed the great Hi-Rez death of 2025. On February the 6th, Hi-Rez would announce that they would be ceasing development on Smite 1, Paladins, and all other titles to consolidate their development team and focus on Smite 2. Many of the familiar faces that had been with Hi-Rez from the beginning were let go, and the skeleton crew that remained would be left with the impossible task of winning back a fan base that had already moved on. Hi-Rez is absolutely a story of what could have been. The constant need to try and fix something that wasn't broken drove away the community that made it special. And just to clarify, these decisions were being made by the executives who were driven by profit. The individual employees at Hi-Rez did the best that they could. The engineers, community managers, esports commentators, and even professional players have flourished in the aftermath. This has been the story of Hi-Rez Studios. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the Global Gaming Network. And if you want to see any more videos, deep dives into game developers, esports scenes, or any drama around the internet, let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.